so important. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
So I guess maybe we start with just a few minutes ago, Xi Jinping throwing security support behind Russia. And what does this mean with this new congressional report warning that Russia and China, a war with both of those countries simultaneously, is on the horizon?
Well, first of all, let's talk about what Xi Jinping has done. China and Russia, of course, have a relationship that's superior to any treaty relationship. It's a relationship without any boundaries. This is what they've been saying. But there's been some boundaries. I mean, China has been a little bit reticent about Russia's military incursion into Ukraine. It violates China's Westphalian principles of sovereignty and things of that nature. But I think China has been compelled to reassess its posture, not by Russia's actions, but by the collective West's actions. That China now recognizes that this struggle between Russia and Ukraine isn't about Russia against Ukraine, it's about Russia against the collective West, against NATO, against the United States. And then China has to evaluate the rhetoric and the actions that have been coming out of the United States, its European allies.
Well, I think it's more than that. It's more than that, folks, but I'll go on.
Its Asian allies, in regard to China, the strangulation of China that they're trying to do economically, geopolitically. And China, I think, has realized that the best way to protect China is to align China militarily, from a security standpoint, with the other nation that is lined up against the same enemy set that China's facing, and that's Russia. This is a huge deal because it's not that China's military is going to be coming over the borders. I mean, I think you'll see some Chinese assistance from a material standpoint.
And I think I do want to insert this because there is a connection while they're talking about this part before they get to the Iran part. But you notice there's a lot less coverage in mainstream media, corporate media, I should say, not mainstream. Independent news is what's mainstream. Corporate media, they haven't been covering Iran. It's like they moved off of, I'm sorry, not Iran. They haven't been covering Ukraine. It's not like they moved off of it, but they clearly have put Ukraine at the children's table and moved Israel to the adult table. But let's let them make the point about China and Russia and connect it to Iran.
I think you'll see some of this. You'll see closer cooperation between Russia and China. It won't be a one-way street. Russia has some technology it can offer China that will be devastating.
Oh, another thing I wanted to mention. So again, I said this. I think I alluded to this earlier. So we're supposed to be getting in so we're going to get in a war with Russia, China, Iran, and then Jordan and Turkey again. That's what we're doing now?
Yep.
And wait till he gets to how we're going to field that many people. There would have to be a very large uptick in military recruitment. And if you haven't heard, military recruitment is down now. So let's listen more of Scott.
To America if China ever incorporates it. But more importantly, it's about
I think there will have to be another draft, folks, in the States. Going to have to be another draft if that happens. If this becomes a real war, World War III.
the fact that Russia is no longer alone. That China now has said, we support what you're doing. We're on your side. We're on Team Putin when it comes to Ukraine, when it comes to the world, the global position. This is bad news for those in the United States who are trying to resurrect Cold War fantasies of being able to wage and win two wars.
Yep, that's what they want.
Simultaneously. You know, back when I was in the Marine Corps, we actually had a posture of fighting 2.5 wars. The way the United States was configured militarily, we could fight a war in Europe using NATO and defeat the Soviet Union At the same time, we could fight a major war in the Pacific, probably North Korea, and defeat the North Korean Chinese threat, and still have sufficient force to engage in a smaller war, say in the Middle East, where we would fight a holding action until we won one of the two major wars and diverted the resources in to win the half war. And we had the force.
So that's 2.5. He said at his time, it was a belief or understanding that we could do two and a half wars. And he's counting the one that's NATO led supposedly as one of those wars. And then we could fight a full one or just ourselves, and then have some sort of other smaller sort of conflict somewhere else. But again, remember who the players I said, Russia, China. Now we're going to add, that's 2. And now we're going to add, and this is back in the day. We're going to see if he says if it's still 2.5 even now. This is back when he was in the Marines. So this is several decades ago. But let's listen.
Forces to do that. We trained to do it. We were ready to do it. And thank God we never had to do it, but I think we could have done it. Today, we went from 2.5 to 2 wars. Today, we're down to literally 1 war, and we can't even do 1 more. Let's be honest. If we went to war right now in Europe against Russia, we don't have sufficient military force to prevail. We can fight a war. We can't win a war. If we went to
Is that ever the United States military industrial complex? Is that ever their goal to win? I think Julian Assange said that it's never the goal to win.
Mm-hmm.
It's just to launder the money. But let's listen to some more.
Yep.
To some more of what Scott says.
went to war against China, we could fight a war, but we can't win it. And that's even if we bring the totality of our conventional strength into play. And now we're talking about doing it against both Russia and China. The costs that are going to be associated with this are phenomenal. First of all, it's going to require a massive expansion of our conventional military power. The United States Army just had a shortfall in recruiting. They are literally tens of thousands of personnel short of what their authorized manning strength is, which means instead of expanding the U.S. Army, they have to shrink it. They don't have enough men or women to fill the ranks. And so certain units, certain capabilities are being taken down to zero because you don't have manpower to do this. And now Congress is talking about with what? Are you going to go to a draft? Have you run that by the American people? Is it
Yep, they are.
really smart for the United States?
How would that go? How would that go for Joe Biden to come out and to announce it's time to go into a wartime position? We're bringing back the draft. How many of you would be sending your 18 to, I don't know, where are they taking, up to 24? Is it usually range 25, something like that?
Might be even more than that, brother. Huh. Even more than that. Who knows? Maybe 40-year-olds or 45.
How many of you who have kids in that range, or have brothers in that range, or sisters in that range, or a person, a family member, a friend in that range, in military range, what will be your reaction to them being drafted? Would that be something that would get you out into the streets protesting? I know that would get me. Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. I love my audience. This is why I always look to when it gets to the numbers, I look to you to see if to the chat to see if anybody would give me something I can put up here. And you did. Military age 18 to 25. There you go.
They could always expand that too.
So I know I have a son that falls into that age range, and that ain't happening, Katniss. That ain't happening. That is not happening whatsoever. But let's continue. Yeah.
United States to talk about fighting a war. Do we know what that means? It means that America has to leave our continental fortress, go across the oceans to fight a war over there in their backyard. In their backyard. That means we're taking Russia on, in a confrontation in Europe where Russia's logistics are literally right there next to it. They're supplying themselves from interior lines of communication. We will have to extend ourselves We don't have sufficient logistical buildup in Europe anymore. That would cost billions to do that. That means we have to sustain from the United States with lengthy supply lines. It's literally suicidal. So this is insane. They're talking about potential conflict with Iran. We can't fight Iran. We don't have the forces to do that. You know, we fought the Gulf War in 1991 by having friendly ports and airfields that we could bring our ships into and offload in an uncontested fashion and land and offload troops. How are we going to do that in a war with Iran? They're going to blow up every port, blow up every airfield. It means now we have to do a forcible entry into an Iranian port, Chabahar, Bandar Abbas. We don't have the force structure to do that. Iran has missiles that'll sink our ships before we get there. They're parking too.
I mean, really, the analysis that we're all sort of listening to and that we're all sort of been talking about, this is what a collapsing empire looks like. Spreading themselves way too thin because they still think they're in their prime of their empiring, of their imperialism, when they're not. And I mean, 4, 5 wars? Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing, really? Let's continue.
2 aircraft carrier battle groups off the coast of Lebanon with a 2,000 man amphibious ready group to fight Hezbollah. Hezbollah's 100,000 men, highly trained, dug in to the hills of southern Lebanon, who've been preparing for this fight. We have gone insane. Let me just make it very clear.
Hezbollah, which I believe is in Lebanon, which is they're part of Lebanon. The UN does not classify Hezbollah nor Hamas as a.
Forward this part, folks. I want to hear what he said.
Has always been this way. It's so brutal and inhumane. Maybe you should rethink this. You need to have clear goals here. You keep hearing that in mainstream media. You want to hear clear goals, or the United States keeps saying we need to hear clear goals for what is achievable for for Israel. This is not looking good here. But let's continue with Scott.
America can't fight and win a war anywhere in the world right now against any power that has any military capability. We're that weak. We are literally that weak.
We can't even stop people coming across our own southern border to the tune of 10.
And that's not even true. He's going to say open borders. Hold on.
To 15,000 people per day. So we can really extend ourselves going all the way to China.
It's in open borders. It's not even true. I mean, he's saying there's open borders. And those numbers are not even... I don't believe those numbers. And this guy's this is from Redacted, and he's a conservative. So he's a right winger. But yeah, he had a good guest on. And this is from RBN.
Or Iran, and turning, of course, former allies, I suppose, in Saudi Arabia against us as well. The Biden administration getting the cold shoulder from Saudi Arabia.
They're not going to turn. They're not going to turn against the U.S. Really.
Yeah, but the Biden administration seems keen on raising another $100 billion for the war in Ukraine and to funnel money into Israel. Over the past 24 hours, Zelensky on the Ukrainian side has said, see all of the...
They go into some other...
So that's it, folks. I'm not going to... Just want to bring you this about China back in Russia. And they're entering... see if U.S. attacks Iran. Which they already did. When Trump was... He never mentions that, the history that Trump went into Iran. This guy is a Republican. He's redacted. He's supposed against anti-war, I guess. But he would never mention Trump went into, he's a Trump supporter. Trump went into Iran. That could have started a war a couple of years ago with Iran. But the main thing I wanted to show this is China and China's back in Russia all the way. Even Turkey mentioned, he mentioned Turkey, or the what's the name? Jay did. And Turkey wants a ceasefire. They're not happy with this, the war. And everybody's unhappy. They want this to stop. And this is going to escalate. The war with Israel, Palestine. And it has to stop. There has to be some kind of ceasefire. Or this is going to escalate. I never believe it, but I don't know. Hopefully they're going to hold off on this ground invasion. So I don't want to comment on this that much. This has to stop because China, we're going to enter World War III, folks. If US gets, they already attacked Syria. They attacked Syria and Iraq, the US. Did they claim that they were attacked? I don't know. So they retaliated, attacked guys in, they attacked Syria, forces in Syria and Iraq. But if they go into Iran, and Iran's back in Syria, like a major offense, major war with Iran, and Russia's not going to stop by. I don't think Russia's going to go in if Israel goes ground troops in Gaza. But if US goes into starts a major war with Iran and goes into Syria also, because they're both tied together, Syria, Iran, and Hezbollah. If they go into that, and then China's gonna back the US. The Russians. Would China attack Taiwan? Go into Taiwan? Maybe, who knows? They might. US is spread thin, so they can't really. There's three fronts they're gonna do a war. So this really is gonna definitely World War III. The main thing about this is China. That's why I made this. China, I have to worry about. So China and Turkey is gonna come into it. Is it Saudi Arabia? I don't think Saudi Arabia might be in this. They might abstain. They don't like what's going on with their U.S. ally. So Saudi Arabia might be. Actually, they're friends with Israel. So Saudi Arabia might have an ally with Saudi Arabia. And Jordan, I don't know. I don't think Jordan would be against U.S. Jordan. So Saudi Arabia might be the ally. Then you have Jordan, and that's it. Jordan will be against the U.S. Then you have Egypt. They might stay out of it. They have all these Middle Eastern countries against the U.S. It's a World War III scenario, and then we have they maybe have the NATO countries. Like UK, France, but I don't think France will go in. Yeah, France might go into this. Germany, believe it or not, they might go into this. So you're gonna have a lot of players in this. I don't know if you might have a nuclear. Eventually, they might be used. But this is very dangerous. This might be a start of World War III, folks. And man, I don't know, folks. You gotta make plans, folks. I don't know. What's the plan for the future? Another 5 years? Maybe in 5 years. If it doesn't calm down, it's gotta be stop escalating this. then it will, doesn't go any further, there has to be something. Stop the killings and shooting. Oh, Lord. But maybe they planned this all along, folks. People. That's what they want. The so-called neocons want this war with Iran for years. They wanted Iraq. Now they want Iran. They want the resources. Kind of pretext to what they really want. Maybe they want this is the way to get regime change. I think this is what they really want too. It's madness. It could be a proxy to get the regime change. Or maybe this is what Netanyahu wanted, because he's saying about Iran as a threat to Israel. Maybe to get the US go into there and change the regime change. But in doing so, you're gonna invite Russia. Russia is a friend to Israel, though, but Russia doesn't want have ties to Syria and Iran. So all these are not bad. All these are bad guys, folks. All these players. I mean, there's no good guys here, folks. Netanyahu, everybody, Hamas, Russia, Jordan, China, all not good guys, folks. The US supposed to be the good guys, but there's nothing in the imperialist USA, so-called good guys. That's the only good guys supposed to be, I guess, and Israel, but no, they're not acting like good guys. Everyone's bad here. I don't know, and they're just gonna take the whole world down with it. Russia, US, China, Israel, Jordan, all these countries. They take the whole world down. World War III. Maybe a start. I don't know if we should think about what future's gonna be. Make any plans, I don't know. Maybe don't make any plans, folks. 10 years ahead. What can I say, folks? I'm out.